So here's a new video for you guys that I put some time into this week, and actually over a week now, but I've been planning on it. And it's gonna be a long one, so I'm gonna chop it up into two parts. Today I'll do the first half of the segment, and then probably tomorrow I'll do the other half. And it's all about lists, because I like my lists. So the idea came from, I've seen, as some of us people that watch and read all of the rock postings, I've seen the lists from the likes of Rolling Stone and Loudwire and different places, publications that are the greatest rock or artists of all time. So, you know, my channel, I like to talk what I know and what I love, which is rock and roll music, whether it's hard rock or metal or straight ahead classic rock. That's my stuff that I'm mostly into and that I'm aware of. So this isn't really tackling artists of all time, because that would include some artists that aren't part of my world and part of my collection. And I always try to show stuff that I have bought and own, because that way I'm not just rhyming off things that are popular. So yeah, so I wanted to do my own list. So the 50 greatest rock artists or bands of all time. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm a band guy. I love bands. I don't know why. I just like the idea of a band. And but there are some individual artists that just cannot be excluded from a list of the greatest rock artists or bands of all time. You can't exclude these individuals. The other thing to note is this list is not my favorites. It's not my favorite stuff of all time. It's what I recognize as the greatest rock bands and artists of all time. Some on this list, obviously I care enough about, I own, because I've got a CD or I've got albums from everyone and every band in this list. But they're not necessarily my favorites. In fact, a couple of my favorite bands that I currently and have for years enjoy and listen to, I don't include in this list, because the truth is they're not deserving a spot in the 50 greatest rock outfits or artists or bands of all time. And so what does that mean? Well, bands or artists that have the most impact, have the most influence. I looked at, are they popular? Do they get played on classic rock radio? Because I listen to the radio a ton. Have they lasted a long time? Do other artists and musicians name them as an important, benchmark in rock music? So those were the things I thought about. But yeah, there are some that aren't on this list that people might go, what are you talking about? You talk about this band a lot. Yeah, I know, but they're not part of this list. So, so where do I get off making a list like this? I just love doing it, like all week long. I've been playing stuff from bands, getting reacquainted, getting a little deeper on some of them. So, and it does give me reason there's still holes in my collection, like any collection. So I did fill in some holes specifically to have something to show and to learn a little bit about certain bands that, weren't occupying spots in my list. And there's a variety of reasons for that, age and timing of when they're out and stuff like that. So, where I get my kind of information and knowledge from is I'm somebody at 58 years old that has listened to hard rock music for most of my life. And, I read a ton of publications about it. I watch a ton of videos and other rock fans, their sites. So I guess, I have some knowledge about this based on collecting and spending all the time in the hobby. So this is just fun. Another list. Now this video is going to be a bit longer, and then, like I say, I'll do the rest of it. So I'm going to do 50 down to 26 on this video, and then I'll do the top 25. Probably tomorrow I'll do that, okay? But I want to start with 4 honorable mentions, because there's lots of artists and bands that you could point to and you could add to this list. It goes on and on. But I did try to be right in picking if a band or an artist has a certain style that others followed, then, you know, I tried to recognize that and gave, those those artists, the originals, the spot in most cases. So I will say though that it has to be, and when you're doing your own list and your own video, like, you know, I would say you guys think about your list. Personal preference is part of the it's part of the criteria, obviously, what you play and what you enjoy. So yeah, before we get going, like and subscribe if you don't mind. I'm trying to get back into doing some videos. It's now that I'm settled in my new pad here, and it's suiting me very well. So yeah, I'm gonna do some more videos from different spots and have fun with it. So got some ideas, yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So I wanted to have I got four honorable mentions that I struggled with not putting them in the list, but I think they should be mentioned. One is the Doobie Brothers. So the Doobie Brothers, one of those true classic rock bands with just a ton list of great songs. And the Doobie Brothers are a band that, I wanted to make sure that I include mentioning because they were right knocking on the door for me for my list. So the Doobie Brothers, honorable mention. Another honorable mention, and I'm less of a fan, to be honest, but with so many people recognizing and noticing him, I thought I'd mention as an honorable mention Alice Cooper. I mean, I know from a lot of the classic rock sites that I follow and a lot of the YouTube channels, Alice is an important figure in the history of rock, and so he's an honorable mention. Here's a band that is an honorable mention, I think is important to mention, and it's ZZ Top. So it's funny, the first three that I'm mentioning here are American rock bands, but ZZ Top carved an important spot in rock history, and they're an honorable mention for me. And probably the biggest honorable mention, the only reason I didn't put her in the list is because I'm, more of a hard rock kind of guy, I guess, but you can't, ignore her importance in the history of rock and roll, and that's Tina Turner. So she gets an honorable mention, and probably the most important honorable mention for me is Tina. All right, my list. So top 50 rock artists of all time from my collection, that's chosen by me. And so number 50, and one of the most modern, I guess, or current artists on this list, number 50 is the Smashing Pumpkins. Okay, there you go, another American band, but the Smashing Pumpkins, from this amazing album and the follow-up to this, and then, such a great long career, lots of variety in their sound. Really, the Pumpkins are, to this day, an important, influential band in rock, and they definitely deserve a spot. They're number 50 for me. Okay, here's a band that I don't profess to be as deep a fan as a lot of people out there. They had a very long career. This is the album I've had forever since I was a young kid, and it's one of their it's probably their most famous album, and the band is Motorhead. So they are at number 49 for me. Motorhead, I think they're rightful to have a spot in the top 50 rock bands of all time. Okay, next up, REM, American rock band, very important, influential band, a ton of great music. They were very, very popular on the radio. They had an important part in 90s music and 2000s even, and REM, late 80s. REM is a very important band, and they deserve a spot on my list. They're at number 48. Just gonna grab my list here. Make sure I don't make a mistake. I put all this time into it. All right, up next is number 47, Lynyrd Skynyrd. very important band. I think a band that, they're Southern rock. They are Southern rock royalty, and such a long history, such an, engrossing story behind the band. And Lynyrd Skynyrd deserves a spot. I'm not as huge a fan of them as many people, but come on, they deserve a spot. They've got songs that are staples in rock and classic rock radio. At number 46 is the Scorpions. Scorpions is a band that I started, my early hard rock days. Scorpions were one of those bands, and they've just had such a long career and just gold. They make just gold music, and they're big, they're worldwide. Don't get me wrong, they're not a small band, but the Scorpions to me are what I would point to as far as early metal hard rock, probably what I would point to as one of the most underrated bands of all time in that genre, and that's Scorpions. And they are sitting at number 46 for me. Okay, at number 45, a band that is not in my favorites list personally. Obviously, I've got one of their many greatest hits things, but you can't ignore their influence. You can't ignore, they started performance art, performance rock for sure, and that's Kiss. And Kiss is at number 45 for me on the greatest rock bands of all time list. A lot of people would put them way higher, I suppose. They're an important band, man. They sort of set the stage for bands to follow how to put on a stage show for sure. So they're number 45. Now, before I go further, I should mention, because I wanted to, there are some obvious non-mentioned artists in my list. Gordon Lightfoot, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Joni Mitchell. They're all what I call folk artists, not rock necessarily, so I didn't include them. Bob Marley, he's a reggae king, and again, if I did like artists of all time, these artists would be included, but that's not what we're talking about. So back to my list, rock bands, rock artists of all time. Sitting at number 44 for me is the Smiths. Very important band, more of a limited run in their albums and their career, I suppose, but very, very impactful, very influential. And the Smiths, this is a little bit of personal taste coming into my list as well, but Smiths are cool. And and the Smiths are an example of many of these bands that I've chosen. One of my criteria was what made them stand out. Did they have, a lot of them have a very incredible frontman, whatever, and unique, but also did they spring other things? For instance, the Smiths, Johnny Marr, Morrissey came from this band, and they had amazing careers and impactful reach out into the rock world. So that's why the Smiths to me occupy a spot at number 44. Number 43, personal favorite of mine, and an important band, is Depeche Mode. Now, Depeche Mode, many people might say, well, come on, they're not rock. Yes, they are. They've had a long career. They carved out an interesting sound early, that synth sound, and then they have, since that, really made some rock records as well, kind of more rock songs. And Depeche Mode, very important band in the history of rock, and they occupy a spot on my list at number 43. Okay, number 42, very important band, Thin Lizzy. Now, here's a band that when I was young, I wasn't into at all. I just didn't, you can't buy everything when you're a kid. So, I was spending all my money and time on Van Halen and AC/DC. So, but later in life here, I've got to learn more about Thin Lizzy, and I dig them, and this is a greatest hits collection. It's great, but Thin Lizzy definitely deserves a spot on my greatest bands or greatest artists, rock artists of all time, and they sit at number 42 for me. Number 41, Prince. Another artist that carved an interesting lane in rock history. You know, he brought guitar into dance music kind of thing, modern kind of sound, and Prince. I mean, this is a great, obviously, record. It's very famous, but I've got a couple of Prince greatest hits CDs, best of, and man, the number of songs this guy had that were amazing, great songs, incredible. So he sits at number 41 for me on my list. At number 40 is The Band. This is an older rock band, of course. Robbie Robertson featured in this band, and you know, again, they were even before my time. It's only recently I've learned more about them, but I mean, so many familiar songs and such a great band. One of those bands that really laid the foundation for other true musicians, truly great songwriting on how to do this. So The Band, they sit at number 40 on my list. Number 39 is Heart, a band that can't be ignored. The Wilson sisters, and you know, female-fronted rock band that this is one of their greatest hits collections. Such quality songs, such great music throughout their career, a long career. Heart, and they sit at number 39. Number 38, Def Leppard. One of those early great bands that we grew up listening to at my age, and you know, they had a string of you know, 3 or 4 amazing records, this being one of them. And you know, they've had a long career. They've hung around a long time. They're a very classy, quality band, been through a lot of turbulence, as we know, and they hung in there, and this is a fantastic record. And a lot of rock guys don't like it because it changed their sound and style, but it was a great record, one of the big ones. And Def Leppard sits at number 38. Number 37, Judas Priest, the Metal Gods. They're one of the early bands that we were into, me and my brother, a lot. And Priest, you know, Black Sabbath and Priest, those are the 2 metal bands, but Judas Priest is the true metal band. They were the ones that started that kind of loud, high-pitched vocal, and Judas Priest, well deserving, and they sit at number 37 on my list. Number 36, Nirvana. Here's a band that, man, did they burn bright, and they made a true spark in rock, you know, setting fire to the grunge scene and, you know, igniting, man, so much passion, and they were amazing. It's, you know, it's one of those things. It's too bad what happened with Kurt, but man, did they made an impact. They're only this deep down on my list because they didn't stick around long enough to make more records, but the ones they did make, they sit at number 36. Number 35, very very timely. At number 35 is Oasis. You know, Britpop giants, and you know, now they've announced a reunion, and it's true excitement going on. And yeah, Oasis, they sit at number 35, personal favorites of mine, and they've had a pretty big impact in rock. Number 34, Canadian band at number 34, and you know, one of the true important Canadian bands of all time, the Guess Who. And the Guess Who, to me, they sit at number 34. Guess Who, Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings, coming out of Guess Who. So many amazing songs. What a great band. The Guess Who at number 34. Number 33, another band that, well, they're still going. They're still doing their thing. And, you know, they had one of the biggest rock albums ever of all time. And sitting at number 33 is Guns N' Roses. The only reason they're not higher on my list is because they didn't turn out more material, but the material they did turn out was dynamite. Wow. So Guns N' Roses sitting at number 33. At number 32 for me is The Police. Okay, at number 32, The Police, very important band. Another band that didn't put out, dozens of records, but their records, the time they spent, it was all quality stuff. Sting sprung from The Police, of course, and I think they're a deserving spot, and they sit at number 32. Number 31, a band that I wasn't truly into, but I heard lots of their stuff on the radio, and I've gone out and got this specifically for doing this list, to be honest with you, and it's The Clash, and they sit at number 31. You can't ignore the impact of these guys, and in fact, when I was doing some research about my list here, The Clash is one of those revered bands by all sorts of different types of artists, which is pretty telling and that. So I've got some diving to do into these guys, but The Clash, they're sitting at number 31. At number 30 for me is Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR, and John Fogerty. What a great band. Incredible music, and this Greatest Hits is just full of great songs, very familiar songs, and another band that set the standard for how to do classic rock. They sit at number 30. Number 29 is Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam is one of my favorites, and they sit at number 29. What an important band, and what a long career. As time goes on and they keep going with amazing music, they'll probably even creep up my list more. Pearl Jam's a very, very important band, and they sit on my list at number 29. Number 28 is a band, again, that I don't claim to be in my top choices personally, but I'm more than aware of them, and was only recently I was able to pick up this collection of Yes songs, and the band is Yes, and they sit at number 28. They are the progressive rock, prog rock kings. Yes did it. They're the ones that did it and set the other standard on how to play incredible musicianship songs. Yes, and they sit at number 28. Number 27 is a little American rock band, Aerosmith. What a great hard rock, blues kind of hard rock band. Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Aerosmith. No denying their impact in rock. Great albums, and they sit at number 27. Number 26, last one for today on my list, is a band that my brother and I would name really high in our list, and it's Iron Maiden. And the finest, greatest heavy metal band of all time. And Iron Maiden, they sit at number 26 on my list. The new wave of British heavy metal champions, and what an incredible career they've had. So that's my video for today. Top 50 rock artists and bands of all time. The first half. So I'm going to do another video probably tomorrow. As you can see, it's a bit longer. If you sat through it and make your own list, or maybe it ignites you to think about it, and maybe this video ignites you to play some of this amazing music. And yeah, thanks a lot, and shout out to Kara for listening to me talk about this list the last week. But it's a lot of fun. It's just for fun. Take care, guys, and probably see you again this weekend. Okay, take care. All the best. Bye.